Well, hello there again, friends. Today is 8/14/2022, and today is the Odin Project Vlog Day 141. And I have arrived at Project Recursion, and I completed the assignment number 1 for today, which is basically the writing an inversion, iteration for Fibonacci, and then writing the same Fibonacci but writing it in recursive instead. Let's just get started. So read the warm-up real quick. The Fibonacci sequence, which sums up each number with 1 before it, is a great example of a problem that can be solved recursively. Feel free to hit the link and read about the how Fibonacci works if you need a little further understanding. That's a good Wikipedia article for it. And assignment 1 says, using iteration, write a function fibs, which takes a number and returns an array containing that many numbers from the Fibonacci sequence. Use an example input of 8. This method should return the array of 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. And then the second one is now write another method, fibsrec, which solves the same problem recursively. This can be done in just a couple of lines or one if you're crazy, but don't consider either of these lengths a requirement. Just get it done. So I found iteration to be not so much a mind bender. I had to remember the Fibonacci algorithm and how that works, but that wasn't too bad. But when I got to recursively, I think it's just for the simple fact is I haven't done really anything with recursive logic before, really in any practice or practical sense. So I got pretty much into a mind bender on this one for a bit, but we'll go over that in detail here in a moment. In order to run these functions, you'll need to run it from somewhere. You can run scripts from the command line using Node command installed with Node.js. You can read about the common ways to do it here. For the brevity of this video, I won't go over this part. Very important, though, that you go over it after you've completed the assignments, or at least not both of them, but after you've completed the iteration for fibs, you're going to want to go out here and read this because you do need a way to run it. I mean, you can create an index.html file, run a live server, and then run it like we have in the past, and I've done in other videos, and just run it from run it from DevTools. But this way is cool because when you set it up, you can run it from command line instead of having to set all that up. So, and then it says here, basically, did you figure it out? Congratulations, but do you really understand what is taking place? It's kind of confusing for the recursive part. So they have the YouTube video out here that I watched already, and then also an explanation which I kind of breeze through real quickly, just as a further understanding. So, and that's it. So there's the overview. So let's get started. Make that bigger. Okay. So ignore this. This line is when you set up your Node environment, so you can run it in the command line. So you see the command line here. So right here, I have a assignment 1 fibs use iteration, and so I'm using the ES6 standard here, with the arrow function. So I have a constant variable or function really. That's called fibs, and it takes in any number that the user gives it, and then we're going to create an empty array called fibarray, and then we're going to do a for loop to iterate through. And we're going to iterate through number, which is the input. So for example, if they put in 8, we're going to iterate starting at 0 all the way through 8. Excuse me. And then on each iteration, pardon me, my Tourette's is super active right now. Woo! So if we run the if statement, fibarray, if we have a fibarray 0 equals null, or a fibarray 1 at object or index 1. So if we have a null at index 0 or a null at index 1, we want to just push I, which is the the iterated number, to the fibarray. And this piece of logic is in here because otherwise there's multiple ways to write this algorithm. I'm not saying that my way is the best way or the only way. It's just a way. And as I've always said, and so if without this code, this chunk, this if check, it will fail because it'll come back as not a number, nen, because when it first starts through this loop, obviously it's starting at 0, at least the way I wrote it, and so 0 will have, you know, it will be null because the array, there's nothing in it yet. So you can't run this next calculation because the else, so I had to do an if else basically, because the calculation here is fib number is fib array dot length minus 1. So if you remember from previous projects, fib array dot length minus 1 will get you the current most recent far right array item. And then so we're going to add that to the same exact code, but minus 2, which will take it to the next, this will be the next array item to the left. So you're going to add those together, and that's going to be called the, basically, it's just a fib number. Internal variable I called fib number, local variable. And so that math errors out as not a number if either of these are null, which means that either position 1, your most recent position, or your previous to that position are not available or don't exist. It's going to come back as null. So this block of logic takes care of that. So if we come in and we see the nulls, I know I'm over explaining this, but I just wanted to explain it so you guys understood where I was coming from. We're going to just push the number I, so whatever the current iteration is, into the array so we have something to use. So basically then when we get to, when we iterate up to 3, for example, then this fib number will have a value to it based on what I just said. So I comment all this out because I wanted to tell you about my thought logic. So actually when I first wrote it out, it wasn't here, and I had this chunk of code, which I'm trying to get better at having my code do more things in one line or a couple lines, basically making it less wordy. So this whole block does this one line. So if you look here, you see I had created a local variable called last array item, another local variable called previous array item, and then I had fib number equals last array item plus previous array item. And I've looked at it, I'm like, wow, that is a lot of code to do basically one simple thing. Well, it's two simple things. It's grabbing the last two arrays and adding them together. So 2 things, and I have 3 lines of code. I was like, I bet you I can put that into 1 line of code, and that's exactly what I was able to do here, pretty effortlessly actually. And I like it. It's clean, it gets the job done, and it's a whole lot less code than this. So that's why that's like that. So I'm going to erase that now, and I just wanted to show that to you. And then after we get our fib number, we're going to push it into the fib array. And remember, push puts it at the very very far right current position. So, and then we're going to keep looping through until I is iterated all the way through and satisfied, and then we break out. And then right here we do a console.log iteration fib array just so we can see in the command line terminal what's going on. And then here's the call for fibs, and we're giving it 8 as per the example requirements. So if you run that, I guess so the way this happens when you have nodes set up is that when you hit Control S for save, since we did make an edit to this file, it will automatically rerun everything down here. Again, just for sake of brevity of time, I'm not going to go over that part, but it's pretty easy to set up. Just follow the instructions. So I have iteration here, and you can see 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. And that matches what we have here, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. So that logic works. Again, this isn't the only way to do it. It may not even be the best way, but it's just the way I did it. So the next one, I racked my brain over. And I got something to kind of worked, but then it was giving me hassles and bugs. So I went out and grabbed one of the students that had completed this section. This is new. This section's new, so not very many students have completed this. But I went out and grabbed one of theirs, and so this block of code is theirs. I refactored it a little bit, changed the return name string there. I also changed, they were using the ES5 function command, so I changed this to ES6 with the arrow function, just so I stay consistent with my previous one up here for fibs. So we have a constant fibrec, and it's going to take in length as a parameter. And we have three, so we're going to go over their code basically. Sorry, I didn't say what I was going to do, so we can further understand what we're doing and how we got to the recursive action here. So we got basically a case to exclude. So if length is less than 1, is not a number, returns a Boolean value that indicates whether a value is reserved. So that's basically a true or false statement. So if is not a number is true, then we're going to return invalid entry. Basically just challenges it and means that they didn't put in a number, they put in a letter or something like that. And then length, we want them obviously the number to be greater than 1. So if it's less than 1, as is the case here, if that's true, then we're going to also return invalid entry and return invalid entry and make them start over. And then we have base case here, so we have two base cases. Basically, if length is 1 or 2, we're going to return a unnamed array of 0 and an unnamed array of 0 and 1. And that's what was tripping me up, is because I was trying to do the recursive before as I was doing it up here with the fib array name, and I probably could have done it, but I was getting a lot of hassle with the logic, and it wasn't really turning out right because I was getting undefined, and then I was getting variable not defined, parameter not defined because I didn't have the name in there of the array. Excuse me. And so I changed this, I looked through several different students' code, and they all were just doing something basically similar to this. I actually learned something new today, a couple things actually. I didn't know that you could have an unnamed array like that, and that actually works, so that's pretty cool. So anyway, without overexerting on that one, it's going to return a array with 0, and then if it's length of 2, it's going to return 0 and 1. Two values there, and that is because if the length is 2, you want to do that because the first two the only answers that are possible in the Fibonacci sequence, if you have a 2, length of 2 is 0 and 1. It's always going to be 0 and 1. And same case with 1. If the length is 1, it's always going to be 0. So you can do that hard-coded and get away with it. So here's the recursive. So this is the recursion happening here. So we have a we have it inside a bracket. So essentially, I believe we're having that done so that we can call multiple arguments. That's where the triple dots come in front, and so we have three callbacks to the same function. And first, it's going to do, this is nothing new. Basically, we're taking the length minus 1, so this would be the recursion part. So basically the opposite is in play. So basically in a for loop, we're in my example, the way I did is I'm incrementing and going up. This one we're decrementing and going down. And that's important to know because right here you'll see here there's a length minus 2 in brackets for this is going to be your index. This is important to know because it took me quite a minute to figure out, why there was a length minus 2 and respectively a length minus 3 in here. And that is because it actually makes sense. So if you remember, your base cases are 1 and 2, so you can't. So those will always be filtered out. So the next available number is a 3. So if your 3 is here, so 3 minus 2 is 1, and then 3 minus 3 is 0. So then you have 1 plus 0, which will give you the index of 1. So that makes sense. That would be a valid case. So like, for instance, if you had 2 here, you'd have 2 minus 2 is 0, which you can't have. But if you did, 2 minus 2 is 0, 2 minus 3 is negative 1, and you have 0 plus negative 1 is a negative 1. And you can't have that because negative 1 is not a valid index. So you can't do that. So that's why these numbers are here, and that's why it's doing that. And that's, so basically we have the fibsrec length minus 1, and then we're going to have we're going to call it again after the comma here, fibrex length minus 1, not length 2. So basically we're going to break down fibrex to its lowest common denominator, and then we're going to add it to itself again as length minus 1. I'm not going to do justice here and try to explain and break it down because I would need a flow chart to do that. There's actually a document out here when you read through the recursive explanation here of how this is done. Spoiler alert: this does give it away as far as the logic. So if you haven't done it, you might want to wait. But I guess that was kind of a dumb thing to say because you probably are done if you're already watching this video. But anyway, this breaks it down. As you can see, it's fairly complex in how it recursive works, especially with the Fibonacci. You know, they don't have they're not requiring you to put it to an index. And that's the whole reason why we have an index here, is because our requirements tell us we have to put it to an array. So here's the recursion. So you can see it works 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. Otherwise, we wouldn't need to have this in here, this. We still would add the two fibs recs together, but we wouldn't have to have the indexes on the end. So I'm seeing if it could give me a quick explanation of, better explanation than what I have as far as the pluses. Yeah, it's in there. I don't want to drag this video on too long. You guys can read it. So going back here, so then we're going to console.log the recursion fibsrex 8. So this is basically since I wasn't able to do the console.log like that when I did the function call up here, because as you can see, I'm not returning anything. So I had to sprinkle console.log inside of the code itself, the logic. Here, since everything is returned, every line has a return on it. So I was able to console.log recursion and then put the function call inside of the console.log, and it did work. I tried doing that for the other one, and I got undefined, and that's because I don't have any return statements on the other one. So, and that's why it's like that. So that works, as you can see. So I got recursion to make sure that we are identifying the correct method, and we have 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, as I already mentioned. That works out. So again, I didn't want to make this video overly long. I always say they're going to go short, and they always average between 15 and 18 minutes. So go ahead and look at that article if you need further explanation, understanding on why you're adding two fibrecs together. I feel like I did a pretty good job explaining the array portion of it, but there's a lot more explanation that may be needed on the fibrecs than what my video will provide. So anywho, that is it. So please like, share, and subscribe for more content, and let me know in the comments section how you guys did in this first assignment section, and I'll be going over merge sort for next time. So with all that said, until next time, see ya.